So as soon as the technology component was accessible, which was kind of an outrage thing, So like we went in and to test the validity of like what it was going to mean to put this together, we made sure that there were existing technologies in different sectors that could do what we needed to do.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with Leumitech, sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Synergy Global, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, Birthright Excel, Serona Partners, and in media partnership with CTech. Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Today, we're going to the sea, to ships. Meet Josh Bremmerer, the CEO and co-founder of Komodo Covers, a marine accessories company that is bringing a new wave of innovation to the marine industry. Josh Bremmerer, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Thank you very much for joining me today. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk to you about innovation in the boating industry, about the entrepreneur that you are and sort of your journey and what you're doing today, and the way that you're bringing the entrepreneurial world to your domain. And so it'll be a fun conversation. Have you always been in boating in this sort of space?
I've always been I was in the kitchen and then simultaneously in the action sports industry. So growing up, my grandparents lived on the lake that I live on now. And so my dad grew up on the lake. The neighbors were building water ski jumping skis in the basement, trying to decide with slalom skiing whether the boat should just go faster or the line should go shorter. So my entire life, from the time I was a year old or even less, I was sitting in the boat with my dad while they were water skiing with my grandma. And so we've always been big water sports activities people, mainly focused in that water sports realm. So I've been on boats since I was born.
Wow. And sort of the entrepreneurial aspect of it, of identifying, different things you can do within the boating space. Was this always a part of you, or is this something that is sort of, idea led and then the entrepreneurship came?
We just really got upset about boat covers. I think that was the long and short of it. It's like they just didn't work, and that was the main driving force to going out and starting our own thing and inventing this product from the ground up. I had come from, I was in the kitchen, I was a chef, and then I was a manager. And so I've had a lot of management experience, but I had never really done it all by myself. And I still don't to this day, but for the first time ever, it's 100% my fault all the time. And so that's been pretty interesting, but I think it was just time to jump, everyone always is interested in these interviews. Like, how did you know it was the right time? I was like, well, I had had enough of everything else, and it was just time for me to move forward. So let's move forward with our idea.
So let's take a step back and share with me a little bit about your experience. So what are boat covers? How do you interact with them in the day to day? And then what really led you to the place of saying, I think there's a place for me to innovate here. And instead of being a consumer, I can actually be a producer, right? I'd love to understand that shift of mentality of sort of what journey you went on from using it to actually saying, I'm going to try and be a market leader here.
Well, the main problem is, as the boats got nicer, like we started off with like a 1983 Apollo, which is like 16-foot speedboat with a Merc 115 on it. And covering that, had two pieces of upholstery, had no sound system or anything. And so it just had, a driver's seat, which was upholstered in vinyl, totally like Miami Vice style, low freeboard. And then a passenger seat, which didn't even have a back on it. It was just padded. And so covering and maintaining that boat wasn't an issue. But when I was 12, my parents just asked us, we could either have cable TV or a ski boat, because we couldn't afford both. And that's where the evolution came, and trying to take care of a brand new tournament water ski boat. the cover it came with from the factory, if you put it on the boat and there was a rainstorm, it would pool water, and then that would stretch the material and it would drip into the boat. And then, you'd be trailering with one and it would rip and tear, and there'd be these straps and these poles and all of this complexity that never kept your boat dry or protected from anything. And so that was that. And then we started to get older and we started to get nicer boats with, the current boat has, probably $30,000. The current wakeboard boat has $30,000 of electronics in it with touchscreens and stuff. And then it has another probably 20 grand in upholstery. Like, just absurd, right? These are $200,000 Ferraris that are open top, and we're still using the cover we were trying to use for the 1981 Apollo that had 2 pieces of upholstery and no sound system. And so we ended up in this scenario where we got to a point where we were having trouble maintaining our investments. And that was a big driving factor for us. And then one day I was out, we had a carport, and I had the boat, the ski nautique, underneath the carport. And I'm a kite surfer, and it was a rainy day, and I went to go dry out my kite. So I got it home, rinsed it off, reinflated it, and I set it on the boat. And I was like, my brother and I were like, why couldn't we build that airframe underneath the boat cover? And that really, that was the spark that was and then we started building prototypes and stuff. I started doing it at home with a sewing machine 7 years ago, and decided that technology wasn't there. I definitely didn't have the time or resources to commit to what it was going to mean to take this on. And we finally came to a position where my brother had been engineering down in Tesla for 10 years. He did quite well for himself, retired, and then we started Komodo.
Wow. So I'm hearing that there's sort of this journey went from, obviously as a consumer, this frustration, and then there is a spark of innovative idea that you're saying, this is something that I want to try out. And then coupled with the resources with your brother and your own experience, but coming and saying, this is actually something that we can do. Was that, so, taking me back really to those initial days where you're prototyping and you're building, did you already, commit sort of to this journey of Komodo? Were you just trying it out and testing and seeing, let's see if this is something that I actually am interested in? How convicted were you, and how did your conviction change over time?
Oh, I was convicted the second I decided to do it. We were going all the way. Second guessing yourself doesn't seem to do anything in life. And so when we knew the kite surfing technology existed, we knew we could build an airframe. We know that we can dehumidify. We know we can talk over 4G and Wi-Fi and all these things. So as soon as the technology component was accessible, which was kind of an outrage thing, So we went in, and to test the validity of what it was going to mean to put this together, we made sure that there were existing technologies in different sectors that could do what we needed to do. And that they were somewhat affordable, and scaled up to volume. And then we just went after it. So it was 100% commitment immediately. I've learned some lessons through running businesses and stuff. And the first thing we did was we went and tried to build the best foundation possible. So we hired lawyers, and, and we wanted Komodo to be founded on the correct principles of business, before we started. So lawyers, patent attorney, company structure, patents. And then we went in, and we were kind of in the background working with a domestic manufacturer to build prototypes and stuff, but nothing released, nothing launched. And so the first thing we did was just build a inflatable cover, and it wasn't great. I'm going to be honest. We had some,
and so even at that point, so you're saying you're building it on the correct foundation. Tell me a little bit about what you were perceiving as the future challenges. So how did you work through, what are going to be the main challenges for this company? Is it Is it the manufacturing? Is it the go-to-market strategy, the branding, trust? I mean, what elements did you already know were going to be critical in the industry that you're in?
The marine industry, one of the reasons we decided to jump on this is that it's a completely empty market. So we thought, like all we have to do is build a boat cover that's, 50% better than anything else on the market. So the industry had set a pretty low bar, And so we were like, well, that is a good industry to be in. Also, high retail values of these modern boats. So percentage of like our accessory cost to the percentage cost of the actual asset, was so low. 1%, to buy a cover, 2% to buy a cover. And then I thought when we first started that manufacturing was going to be easier. As it turns out, 50-yard textiles that have very small tolerances are really hard to build. And so that part took us a lot of iterations. You don't fail until you stop iterating, right?
Exactly.
So, as I was optimistic going in that it could be done. And I realized from all my experience managing businesses and developing e-coms and all these things that I've done in my life that like persistence is the most important thing in startup. You are going to take hits and you're going to take them just constantly. Mm-hmm. So maintain perspective and work towards your goals, and it's going to take one or two things to keep pushing the ball up the hill. It's time and money. It's just, they're synonymous in my mind. It's like, you got your burn rate and all these things. And so if you want to keep pushing, you need time and money. Sometimes you just need another month or 2 months. Sometimes you need another $200,000. And so those are the things that just keep pushing the ball up the mountain and you can't quit. You have to keep driving. There can't be anything that says, oh, I can't overcome that problem. That mindset, it won't work.
So if you're looking at the marine industry today and, go to market, is it sort of the, similar, in e-commerce or in terms of brand strategy, or are there specific things within the marine niche that are a little bit different in the way that you're perceiving the strategy?
In my mind, marine is still brick and mortar, which is crazy, right? And so because of your reliance as a boat owner on the shop and your salesperson and your service writer and all of these things, your storage guy, you're reliant as a boat owner. And there's 12 million recreational boat owners in the United States alone. 12 million in fiberglass runabouts. So it's insane. They're all reliant on their pro shops. And so our go-to-market strategy started off with, we were just going to say, hey, we want to be a dealer-to-dealer thing. So we wanted to go and open up dealerships like a more traditional retail model for our go-to-market, rather because of the nature of boats and the nature of the marine customer. We saw that as a path forward. And then we said, hey, 3 to 5 years down the line, we want to be building OEM covers because we can make the perfect cover for a perfect model of boat, not to mention with manufacturing, timelines and stuff, and deliver them all at one point, and so limit the customers we actually sell to because of the vast majority of SKUs and different shapes and sizes of boats. We could focus in and we could open up specific boats at a time. And a boat needs a new cover every 3 to 5 years. So we have a recurring customer base. Mm-hmm. So
that makes sense. And so internally, in terms of, leadership and the way that the company's grown. So where are you at today with Komodo?
So we had a wonderful meeting with it all kind of changed up when we got this opportunity to do OEM to start. And so we had a wonderful meeting, and I'm not going to disclose what brand it is yet, of course, because the ink is definitely not dry on it. We had a wonderful meeting with them, and they wanted to move forward with us. And so that's where Komodo's at. Our first big meeting where we flew across the country with a cover and everything went quite well. And so that's where we're currently at as a company. And so most of our focus is driven on to that brand currently for 2023, 2024. And then we're going to try to back catalog sale. So sell older models direct to dealers. So we can provide our Komodo product on that entire market.
And so you went and you're looking more at the OEM, right? And that vertical as the main growth for Komodo at this point, right?
At this point, and only because of opportunities that just came up through a connection, a friend. Hey, you should meet with these guys. They're interested in your product. And so we were planning on developing, the number one, taking the sectors, the top 6 models of towboats. We'll make those first. And then we'll go out and sell those direct to dealers through this special portal. And then we were going to move on to pontoon and center console and runabout. And as our comfortable production capacity increased, we don't want to put out okay covers. Everything Komodo, we want to put Komodo up there where it belongs as a premium brand in the market. And so we want to take a lot of time and energy creating the products that are right for our consumers, that are tight and fit work and work perfectly. So that takes a little bit more time to create those covers. It takes more iterations. It takes us actually going and using them. And because of that, we were just going to step our way up and add more and more models. And then those customers, people average lifespan of a wakeboard boat's between 25 and 35 years. So we're in it for the long game. We want to be a staple brand in the marine industry with innovative technologies. Hopefully that answered your question.
And so if you're looking now a bit about yourself and so your own experience going through this, is it what you imagined, more or less? Well, what kind of thoughts do you have now about leadership in this domain for you?
It's the first time I've ever been truly happy at work. It's definitely the most pressure I've ever experienced, in startup world. I mean, everything is kind of make or break. Where's the next investment coming from? If we don't get this deal, what are we going to pivot to? You're always running your ABC plans in your head and looking at what the budgets and the burn rates all correlate to all those plans and, planning for the worst case scenario, hoping for the best case scenario, and just trying to keep the car down on the road, And so it's been really, really fulfilling and gratifying and this amazing experience. But I also have way more gray hairs than I did when I started this. And manufacturing is difficult, and textile manufacturing is not injection molding. And we're in telecom, 4G, Wi-Fi. I mean, we populate and bake our own PCBs in-house. We have an electronics lab and a textile design space and a full maker space. They're 3D printers last month. Our power bill just for 3D printers was $65 in just 3D printing costs, in power. It's
That's
just
really
insane. Cool. And so you keep iterating and building pieces and trying to figure out how to make additive manufacturing airtight and watertight, So, you got the glues, and I'm down there in the shop my engineers are like, hey, I need someone to paint this with epoxy. And I'm like, I'll paint it with epoxy, awesome. So it's been
That's
great.
Really cool.
And my team's...
And it sounds like you have both a grasp on, building current product, but also continuously making sure that you're innovating and that you're leveraging, whatever tools we have at our disposal in 2022 to do that. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing with the 3D manufacturing, right?
Yeah, I mean, additive manufacturing is so cool. I mean, it definitely has its pitfalls. It's not an Epson. You're not printing 2D on a piece of paper. I mean, fortunately, we just got the new Rise 3D Pro 3 printers, which have auto leveling beds and better temperature control, which is not something I knew about 3 years ago, by the way. And And like they do make it easier, but also printer settings and all these things. You know, I thought when I bought my first 3D printer that you just throw the CAD on in there, hit the print button, you know, and then you start like talking about like how you can't put supports in there and you can't actually print it like that unless we want to use like dual head printing with dissolving supports, you know, and like those sorts of things were so much harder than I thought they were going to be. They took so much longer. And then COVID, you know, just throw that one on there. And it's been an interesting couple of years, and it has been really
I can
fun.
only imagine. And it sounds really, really interesting. I just love learning about these things that I have no idea about and don't meet them in the day to day. And I really want to thank you for coming on and sharing these 20 minutes with me, a little bit about your journey, about your thought process, how this whole thing started and where you're at today. So Josh, thank you very, very much. Best of luck with Komodo. And I look forward to experiencing one of these boats myself. Sounds great.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. If you want to chat again, let me know. We're
Wonderful.
here.
Thank you very much, Josh. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.